Hear all of our previously aired broadcasts of News for the Soul online at newsforthesoul.com. Now let's get back to the show.
All right, get ready for some self-empowerment moments. It's time for Phoenix Revolution, Transform Unapologetically with Stacey. Stacey, welcome back. Let's get you to reintroduce yourself on the show and what's up?
Yeah, hey Nicole, great to hear from you. So hi, I'm Stacey the Black Feather Intuitive. Welcome to Phoenix Revolution. Really excited to be here. I am a psychic intuitive, an oracle, a channeler, and a healer, a starseed, you know, all the things and the stuff, and so glad to be connecting with you guys today. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, what I'm talking about today is the third of sort of 5 phases of the Phoenix that are really, I'm all about the Phoenix, I'm all about the transformation, and it came to me a few years ago, this whole system, you know, of I created a personality system to figure out what your inner Phoenix type is, and also with that came the 5 phases of the Phoenix, and sort of breaking down, we often think of the Phoenix rising because that's the vision that we receive a lot, but there are other stages and phases of the Phoenix that are just as important, if not as fun, as the Phoenix rising, just as important and a big part of that path moving forward. So for those of you just tuning in for the first time, you might want to consider, after listening to today's show, going back and listening to our Phoenix burning phase show, and last month was our Phoenix growing phase. So that'll kind of get you up to speed. But I'll give you guys, and for those of you who are returning, welcome back. Really excited to have you here. I'm just going to do a quick little recap. And then today we're going to talk about the third phase of the Phoenix and go into some detail about that. So Phoenix burning. Oh my goodness. I am a Phoenix whose feathers are frayed and worn out. I am at the end of my road. Whether this is something that the universe has brought to me, that the universe has pulled the rug out, the proverbial rug out from under me, or whether this is a change that I am initiating, I am done with a particular chapter, or a particular job, or a particular relationship, or a particular way of being. I've learned all that I can learn from this, and I'm ready for something new. And so Phoenix burning is, you know, the bird that spontaneously combusts and turns into a pile of ash. And then the Phoenix growing phase is the pile of ash. You know, it's okay, I'm not who I was, and I have zero vision or idea of who I'm becoming. I'm kind of in the messy middle of it. And so here's where I'm at. And I call the Phoenix growing phase the womb, because it's an opportunity to kind of do all the re's, to rest, to recharge, to regroup, to reflect, to reevaluate. All the re's. It's like the big fat Mercury retrograde. And then after we have that Phoenix growing phase and enough time in that phase to sort of tap in, we land on our Phoenix emerging phase, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So Phoenix emerging is you're floating around in the womb, and all of a sudden it gets a little cramped, a little uncomfortable, and you know, maybe an angel, maybe your high self, maybe source energy speaks to you and says, "Hey, you know, you've been floating around here for a while. Did you ever happen to notice see that light at the end of the tunnel there? You see that tunnel and see the light?" And you go, "Ooh, oh my goodness, I didn't know what that was." And oh, I think I can see something. I think I can sort of make some kind of figure out, or I think I can make something out. But ooh, this is very different than, you know, sort of the unknown, the darkness that I've been floating around in. And the angel says, "Okay, well, why don't you, like, you're ready, why don't you go and follow that light and just sort of see what's up there?" And you get so excited because you're like, okay, in the Phoenix growing phase, there's been no vision. There's been no movement. There's been no direction forward. It's just sort of sit and wait, pause and breathe, surrender to what is. So, yeah, there's excitement. Ooh, I see a little something. Let me just, check that out and see what it is. And so you decide to leave the womb and you go into what I call the birth canal. And all of a sudden, you're in the birth canal and you're like, oh, wait a second. This isn't what I thought it was. This is icky and sticky and ooey and gooey, and it's cramped, and I feel like I'm moving forward, but then I get stuck, and I'm trying really hard to get to that light, but there's just so much in the way. And this is the Phoenix emerging, because it is really that phase of transformation when we are in the process of moving from one aspect of ourselves to another, from one version of ourselves to another. It's the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And raise your hands if you have experienced this. I know I have experienced this 1,000,001 times in my life, where I get the idea, I get an inspiration, I get a thought of something, and I'm like, oh, that's it. That's what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. That's where the movement is. Thank you so much for giving me something to focus on. And I dive right on into it, and all of a sudden it doesn't quite work out the way that I thought it was going to work out, or I get shut down, or there are a ton of obstacles in the way. And often it's because there's divine timing, divine order in the process. But I'm pushing my way through because I'm desperate to get to that light. I've been starved of that light for a while. I've been just in this mode of being. And now I'm ready to act on something, to move forward. So when I talk about that Phoenix emerging, and you think about the analogy of actually birthing, we think about contraction and expansion. And that's exactly what it is. It's for the sake of argument, I'm sure there are women out there who, gave birth pretty easily and effortlessly, and the baby was not in the birth canal for very long. But for our purposes, we're talking about the hard birth. We're talking about the long labor, the 24-hour labor or the 48-hour labor, whatever it happens to be. Because in many ways, that's what it takes. That's what it feels like, and that's what it takes when you are in the process of gestation and now you're trying to get to the next phase. There's always a transition period. And this is that suspension bridge from island A to island B. Yeah, there's going to be movement forward. There's going to be a lot of excitement along the way. Everything is new. You're going through this birth canal. You've never been here before. You've never done this before. You don't know what is on the other side. You're just going with, I'm sick of what has been. So the pain of change now is less than the pain of staying the same. And I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to move forward into the next adventure and the next chapter. And so anytime we are in a space in our lives where we are tackling something new, something unknown, we're always going to have a period of contraction before we expand fully and give birth to ourselves fully. And it's that contraction period that can be very, very frustrating, can be very difficult, can sometimes be painful, can be scary at times. It can invoke some fear, because you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, I just went through all this craziness, all these things and this stuff. I just went through this major, shift in my life. Everything just got burned to the ground. And I've been sitting here waiting for the next adventure, waiting for the next step. And now it's here, but you're tricking me. It's an optical illusion. It's not as simple as just walking through the tunnel. No, now I have to work to get through the tunnel. And it is very often that 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. But here's the thing that is so important about this Phoenix emergence phase. You are gaining ground. You are moving. And for every contraction, you want to think about contraction from that perspective of, I'm storing up energy. I'm gathering energy from all of the previous wisdom that I gained, that I connected with in this previous version of myself, because I don't want to leave the wisdom behind. It's made me who I'm becoming. It's going to be nourishment. It's going to be in the soil of what it is that I'm creating, and it is going to be part of the foundation for where I'm going and growing. And so I need to leave all the past behind, all the stuff that no longer serves, that doesn't matter, that is not important in those ways. But I want to bring the good stuff with me. And so when you are birthing yourself new, it's important to understand that the version of yourself that you know now has different dimensions. It's getting to know that body, getting to know one of the things that really comes up in Phoenix Emerging when people are going through this is getting to know what lights your fire and floats your boat, getting to know and learning what is a good self-care practice. I can't tell you how many times I've gone through major shifts and in that Phoenix Emerging phase where I'm, how shall I put it, where I feel desperate for some level of consistency, comfort, rest. Especially with me, I'm a monkey mind girl. I'm an overthinker to the nth degree, and so sometimes you just need a rest from the mind. And whenever I'm in a Phoenix Emerging phase, it can be a challenge to get that because we go with what we know. But what we know is connected to an old version of ourselves. And again, the Phoenix Emerging, you're not quite who you're becoming either. You don't know what that is. You're not going to figure that out until you're in that Phoenix Rising phase. So for now, it's okay, how do I figure this out? How do I move forward towards this light and keep myself motivated and keep myself energized and recharged in a way that encourages me to, keep on keeping on without actually knowing what I'm working towards. And in many ways, the Phoenix Emerging is a journey of faith, but it's a journey of faith with the energy and the essence of effort, determination. If you want to wait, the body will eventually spit you out if you're not going to do the work. But man, oh man, it's going to take you a long time. And by the time you get to the light at the end of that tunnel, that vision might not be the right vision for you. You might have to turn around and do the whole thing all over again, go back into the womb and start fresh. So there's a real commitment to self that is required when you are in a Phoenix Emerging experience. Commitment to self without knowing who the self really is. And, with all of these transformations that we talk about every month, there are many transformations within larger transformations in our lives. So you might be going through a mini transformation and your Phoenix Emerging phase may be short, sweet, and to the point. Commitment to self might be relatively easy. And, okay, I've got to, go through a little bit of the pain or the hardship or just really, I'm thinking of like a workout journey when you're starting to work out again. It takes a good couple of weeks, at least it does for me, before I start to really get into the habit of it and it doesn't feel like torture having to get up in the morning to go and make my body move in ways that it really just doesn't want to move. But when you are in that major transformative phase, when there is something big, it's not just a chapter of you that you're saying goodbye to, it's a volume of you. There is a necessary commitment to self that is required. And it's a commitment to, how do I put this? You don't know who you're becoming. You still have the essence or the core of you, the soul embodied is the same, right? It's how we express that embodiment that shifts and changes, through our experience. But when you are moving through an emerging phase, you are literally working towards a vision that you don't even know what it is or how it's going to become or who you're going to be on the other side of it, or what's going to be the outcome of that vision and that journey. So it takes a lot of self-belief, self-reliance, self-determination, and an understanding that I may not know what's on the other side, but what I do know and what I have learned from my previous iteration is that I am a co-creator of my own life. And so whatever is in my environment when I get spit out the other side of this birth canal, I know that I can take those resources and make them work for me on my behalf. So as we are going through that Phoenix emerging, and we are really uncomfortable, and we feel like we are a leaf blown around by the wind, we don't feel like we have a ton of control, because sometimes those contractions come when we least expect it. Sometimes all we want to do is sit and rest. Other times all we want to do is push through, bulldoze through, get to the other side of it. But it's understanding that as you're birthing yourself, there's valuable information throughout that process as well. And I think there's a saying out there, I'm not going to get it right here, but anything worth having is worth the fight, or worth the effort. I think the phrase is something about nothing worth having is worth fighting for. Anything worth having is worth fighting for, something to that effect. And I feel like that's a really great saying to kind of illustrate the point here, is that the Phoenix emerging really is about you choosing you choosing the next chapter, the next volume, you saying, okay, I'm ready for that soul growth. I'm ready for that ascension. I'm ready for the evolution of me, because that's exactly what it is. You are evolving. And I'm going to say to you, we all have the choice to stay in the previous cycle. You can stay in Phoenix growing. You can literally live your whole life in a Phoenix growing phase. A lot of people feel stuck in a Phoenix growing phase because there isn't much movement. There is no vision. There's reflection of the past. There's maybe nostalgia. There's a longing for the past. And if you don't do the reflection as well as the sort of the rewiring, the reset, the recharge, you can float around there, forever. But you're not really growing. You're not evolving. That soul aspect of you is not having, I want to say, the fullest experience that is available to us in this journey, in these human bodies. So Phoenix emerging is really a commitment to self, and it is the epitome of self-determination. Because, yes, eventually the body will birth you on its own. The contractions will happen. Life happens. And whether you are engaged in are going to be affected by it in some way. But Phoenix emerging encourages you to say, let me engage in this phase, in the way, in the space that feels good and feels right for me. Phoenix emerging is the opportunity for you to co-create, to say yes to life, to say yes to the soul growth, to say yes to the adventure. The challenges with this phase, in many cases, is the lack of vision. So we talked a lot about that in Phoenix growing, that there's zero vision. In Phoenix emerging, you get tidbits, tastes, samplings. You get a hint of something. And it leaves you wanting more. It leaves you with a ton of curiosity. And it is that curiosity that can become your self-determination, can become your motivation to choose yourself and to go through the challenge of the contractions and the tight spaces and the darkness at times, and the you don't know when you're going to get sort of your next breath, or you don't know when the next wave of expansion is going to show up. but it gives you that taste. And it's up to us to say, all right, I've got that taste. It's not enough to give me the full picture, but I would like to know more. And so I'm willing to put in the effort to take another 3 steps forward. Even if that means I get, knocked back a couple of times, I'm still moving forward. I'm still closer to that vision or to the understanding of what that vision might be. And that is ultimately what I'm choosing. I'm choosing a new vision. I'm choosing a new approach to life. I'm choosing the new adventure. So, of course, this is the third of 5 in the cycle, and of course the cycle repeats itself. So it's like the Ouroboros goes into itself and in a consistent cycle. And because this is the middle of that cycle, it's also the phase that incorporates kind of a little bit of everything. You've done the reflection of the burning. You've done the mourning of what you are saying goodbye to. You've done the float around and receive and be with no vision. And you're also tapping a little bit into what comes afterwards, which is the phoenix rising. When you've birthed yourself, when you're out of the birth canal, you are the phoenix reborn. And a lot of being in that tunnel, in that birth canal, requires manifestation, co-creation, understanding that in a phoenix rising phase, there's a lot that you're going to be doing that I like to say it's throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. It's a lot of experimentation. And so the phoenix emerging requires you to use your imagination to take some fun guesses at what that vision might be that you're working towards. And whether you're right or wrong about that vision matters not. It's the game of imagination. Because otherwise, if you don't have any imagination, if you can't think beyond what you know, you never evolve. So Phoenix emerging is also a really important time to put on your imagination muscles, to carve out time for daydreaming, to make that your mission in life, to daydream, to co-create, to imagine what is beyond what you already know. And many of us get caught up in this phase, and we get hung up in the pain of the contraction because we do not allow ourselves, or in some cases we don't have the experience. We don't give ourselves permission to see beyond what we know. And yet that's exactly what the soul does. The soul has the records of everything and anything that is possible, everything and anything that's been done, that's been seen, experienced on this planet, on other planets, out in the multiverse at large, alternate realities. It knows all. It has the records of all of it. And this is an opportunity for you to, on a spiritual level, intentionally connect with, some people call it the Akashic records. Some people call it the galactic records in your galactic roots, cosmic energy. Some people call it talking to your higher self. Some people call it the oversoul. Whatever you call it, this is the time for you to tap into that, because you are going to be co-creating the experiences that you're having when you come out of this canal, this dark tunnel. And only you can say what that looks like. You are in charge of that. And this is another important aspect of this phase, is accountability, responsibility. And I feel like that's in some cases why we have 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, because we really need to lean into it, get a taste of it to decide if that's really actually where we want to be. And when we get the 2 steps back, we can integrate, or we can decide to take a different path. Ooh, that doesn't feel right. Let me make an adjustment. Let me make a tweak here. Let me sort of co-create using these adjustments so that when I do get on the other side of the tunnel, the resources that are there for me are going to be the right resources to get me where it is that I need to go, even if I don't know exactly what that is, even if I am just playing in imagination nation. That is what is going to help us through this phase the most, is being able to get outside of ourselves and our own previous experience and awareness and understanding and step more fully into the presence of what we're creating now. So, ask yourself, when it comes to that concept of co-creation, being able to imagine beyond what you know, going into that sort of sci-fi fascination world, is that something that you find that is easy for you to do? Is that something that you find yourself doing on a regular basis? Maybe you're a person who prefers to be in that space and your challenge is the grounding. Maybe you're a person who is so focused on your tasks and your to-do list that taking, 10 minutes out to have an imagination break, an imagination time out, that you're just like, I don't even know where I would start. Like, I don't know how to imagine anything. I keep going to what I know. And anything in between, of course, there are so many of us who are going to have, various different experiences with that. I actually fluctuate a lot. So I love to use my imagination, and my imagination can literally run away with me when I am in a period in my life or a space in my life where I feel calm, peaceful, where I feel connected, where I feel safe, where I feel aligned in whatever way that, sort of presents itself or looks. But there are also times when I am misaligned, when I am anxious, when I can't see the forest for the trees. And it's in those times that I struggle to see beyond what already is in existence. And this happens a lot for us when we're dealing with trauma, when we're dealing with situations that take our breath away, that cause us to step into more of a fear-based emotional frequency versus a love-based emotional frequency. And it happens to all of us. So, whether you are one way or the other, you actually have the ability to be everything in between. It's just a matter of what frequency you're in. So I understand, when I'm kind of channeling this to you guys right now, and I'm asking myself that question, it depends on the day. Some days I absolutely can see beyond what I know, and other days I can't do it for love nor money. It's just not there. So what do we do in those moments when it's just not there? Speaking from a sort of a phoenix perspective, which is what it's all about, is that transformational perspective. It's understanding that imagination is alchemical. It's alchemy. It is transformation. It's transformation at its base points. It's going back to the basics. And I feel like that's the key. That's the secret. Going back to the basics. Well, what are the basics? Breathing. Being still. Throwing out the to-do list for a minute. Connecting with nature. Getting into a space where you are not worrying about everyone else around you, not worrying about the superficialities of life, and really coming back to what really matters to me. My head, my heart, my soul, my spirit. What matters to me is feeling connection with other people, true, deep connection. What matters to me is being a more loving, compassionate being than a selfish being or a self-absorbed being. I mean, pick a topic that you that you want to be, right? Pick a characteristic that you want to be and lean into that. Going back to the basics. We could say that about a lot of things in life, but especially with this Phoenix emerging, it's going back to basics. And I'm just being shown in my mind's eye, with the birthing process in labor, in many cases, that's what happens. You go through this contraction and there's so much pain. What do? You go into the breathing, because it helps the body to focus on what really matters. It brings everything pinpointed into the present moment. Nothing else matters but you in that moment. And then the contraction passes and you have a little rest. There's a little bit of relaxation. There's reflection. There's also awareness that, okay, what I'm birthing has moved further along into the birth canal. It's gained some ground. So I'm that much closer to that tunnel, to that light. I feel also like with the Phoenix emerging, we can get a bit scared of it because it is, I would say, the most intense of all of the phases. Even though Phoenix soaring can be really intense because you're very focused and sort of driven with specificity, which we'll get into in a couple months. It is the most intense because as you're going through the transformations, you're not picking and choosing how you're transforming. It's not saying, okay, I want to go to, the med spa. I want to say it's almost like a rehab. Like you can go to a nice fancy rehab spa, spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But at the end of the day, it's still you having to do the work. You can do the work in a nice environment. You can do the work while you're getting a massage. But the work, the internal work is still there. The work is the work. The pain is the pain. The process is the process. And so where there was a lot of surrender in the Phoenix growing phase, I feel like there was radical surrender in the Phoenix growing phase. Now you have radical acceptance of what is. It is what it is. There's no way out but through. So if I accept that, okay, yeah, there's going to be some, pretty intense discomfort as I go through this. There may even be some pretty intense fear around the fact that I have no idea what's going to be on the other side of that door for me. It's still moving you closer to your true self, to that soul expression, to that soul journey, to the ascension into the true you. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for, is we're creating this life. We're having experiences that we're choosing to have so that we ultimately are, I want to say, learning ourselves anew, getting to know our true identities. And we could talk about, the galactic identity or the cosmic identity or, our identities on the planet here, but this is the soul identity. Who is my soul? What is my soul? Where is my soul? How is my soul? Right? It's that ascension process. We have to forget in order to remember. And that's one of the big games on this planet. Forgetting to remember. When we come through the birth canal, we contract to forget everything that we know about ourselves as souls. And we come in with the basics. And that's all we need. When we connect and reconnect to the basics, suddenly everything starts to open up. That wisdom that is inherently there, it's accessible to us, but only if we go back to the basics, only if we are quiet, if we go back to the breath. We keep things simple. I talk a lot about that, the KISS method. Keep it super simple, right? Or keep it stupid simple. that's in essence what this phase is a radical acceptance of it is what it is. There's no way out but through. So let me just keep it simple. Let me focus on what's right in front of me and not worry about anything else. Yeah, I'm ultimately going to be getting to that light at the end of the tunnel, but there's no point in me putting a whole lot of time and excess energy into trying to figure it out and go into what if land and create anxiety, because the process itself is going to take the time that it takes, but the process itself is also going to get me moving. So if I go into radical acceptance of what is, and I say, okay, I understand that this is going to spit me out on the other side into something new, let me help that along. I'm not taking control. I'm not trying to shift or change what's happening other than making tweaks to my experience within the process. I'm not trying to change the process. I'm accepting where things are at. And so therefore I'm going with the flow of life. I'm moving with the current. I'm not resisting. And that is the big key. Phoenix growing and Phoenix emerging both carry a level of resistance. When we get into that, Phoenix growing, we resist the not knowing. We resist the not having a direction. We resist not having a goal to work towards. We resist the being. And in Phoenix emerging, we resist the uncomfortability of change. And yet, that's what is required to make those changes. When you change, things change around you. The landscape doesn't necessarily look the same. It doesn't mean that the change is bad. It might feel uncomfortable in the moment, but ultimately that change is going to get you to where you want to be. It's a part of what you are co-creating for yourself. But it's like anything, it's the old saying, be careful what you wish for, because it just might come true. Often what happens, let's say you're in a space, in a place where you're like, I'm feeling really, unfulfilled in my friendships or in my community group, or I'm not feeling truly connected in my community group. And universe, what I would really love is some deeper connections, some people that I really can relate to, some real soulmate, soul bond people, where I don't have to necessarily always have to explain myself to the T, that we have conversation and there's just I get you and you get me. There's just a knowing. Okay, well, the universe hears that and says, all right, we're going to bring that to you. But the universe doesn't tell you, okay, well, we got to clear away what is an albatross around your neck before you do that. So in our minds, we think, oh, okay, well, this will be wonderful and it'll be awesome. And, I can keep what is in existence now as I'm shifting into the new. And sometimes that is the case, more often than not, especially for us starseeds and light workers and sensitives. The universe is like, all right, you've asked for something, we are going to grant it. We're going to bring that to you because you are the co-creator of your life. And so that means we're going to remove this friend and we're going to remove that person and we're going to remove this connection. Because at the end of the day, those connections are not supporting you any longer. They're supporting an old version of you that you have declared is no longer where you want to be. Again, you are in that transformative space. You are looking to evolve and to grow. You're looking for the next joyful adventure, the next opportunity to expand and grow into the highest and best version of yourself that you can be. But we don't always think about that when we're asking for things, and we often hate the process. What do they say? Don't hate the hater, right? You can't blame the wind for blowing in the storm, right? Or you can't blame the wind for the storm. The wind is part of the storm. It's just doing what it always does. It's doing what it needs to do in order to get to the other side. And that's what I feel this is really about is, Phoenix emerging is not for the faint of heart. It requires a level of bravery, and that bravery comes in the going back to the basics. It is what it is. I radically accept that this is what I have to go through to get to the other side. So what I'm manifesting and co-creating for myself now is as peaceful and easeful a release as possible, so that I can get to the other side with gratitude for what was and grace for what is becoming. And it requires a lot of intentionality to remind yourself that you're not in control, and yet you're very much in control. It's letting go of the control of the situation, the circumstances, the process. Acceptance of the process. And trust that the process is going to get you where you need to be. The ebbs and the flows of the ocean eventually spit the water out on the shore in the place and space where it needs to be. So you'll eventually get to where you need to go. If you continue to resist, it'll be extra painful. It'll take you a lot longer to get there. Versus if you don't resist and you go into that acceptance, and then you are intentionally acting on what is presented in front of you in each and every given moment. And you're not seeing it as the enemy. You're not seeing it as something that you need to undo or to retract from. You're seeing it as part of the process. Now you're cooking with gas. Now you are moving with the flow of life. And you will get to the other side. Everything is in divine order and timing. But I am going to say to you, you will get to the other side much quicker. And I want to say far less painfully, with less bruises to show for it, than if you are in that space of resistance. Why is this happening? Why me? This is so uncomfortable. I don't like this pain. Let me just stay put for a second. Let me just stay put here. I don't want to move forward. I want to resist the contraction. I want to contract all the way. I want to embrace the contraction. I'm afraid of the expansion. Can't I just stay here? Can't I just stay? Life is always going to provide you with shift and change. The power is in knowing that you have the ability to engage with it and to make it your own. I keep hearing in my head, make it your bitch. So, and I don't use that word coyly. I take that word back. I see that word as more powerful. So that's how I'm saying that. Make it your bitch. But yeah, that is in essence the phase of Phoenix emerging. And whether you are, and by the way, if this is your first time tuning in and you'd like to find out what your Phoenix personality type is, go to my website. It's a completely free quiz. And you'll find out whether you are a copper, iron, silver, gold, platinum, or liquid diamond Phoenix. And it's really helpful to understand, based on your personality type, what Phoenix energy and characteristics you can lean into to support those transformations, because it does lend itself to, here are the pros and cons of it, or here are the ways that I am strong in my transformations, and here are the ways that I resist those transformations. So definitely check out my website, www.theblackfeatherintuitive.com. Go to Find Your Phoenix quiz and figure out what your Phoenix is. Having said all of that, no matter what personality type you are, you're always going to be in some phase of the Phoenix. That's just the way that the cookie crumbles. So that Phoenix emerging is a hugely important phase, because it is the phase that allows us to choose life, to choose the soul growth and evolution. And it really is a commitment to yourself. And I would say a recommitment to yourself. The tarot card that is associated with this particular phase of the Phoenix is the Judgment card, 20. And it's the Judgment card. A lot of people think Phoenix emerging should be the Fool. But I feel like the Phoenix emerging, you have choice. And it is about choice. Do I choose to continue to go forward into that new adventure that I don't really know exactly all the things that it's going to contain? Or do I want to have one more kick at the can? I want to go backwards? Do I want to stay put for a little while and resist that birthing? So it's the Judgment card. Phoenix growing is the Hanged One, the Hanged Man, because you are in a sense of limbo. And this is the Judgment card. You have a choice. Am I ready to evolve? Or do I want to take one more kick at the can? Do I want to do one more round on the merry-go-round of a particular cycle or topic or pattern? So the Judgment in Tarot is our mascot, because the Judgment really is about, you see in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, you see all of the coffins wide open and the bodies are being resurrected from the coffins, and the angel is above with the trumpet call saying, okay, you've gotten almost all the way through this particular fool's journey. Are you ready for the next level? Or do you feel like you want to revisit some things? And it really is about choice. So that is our Phoenix emerging, Nicole. What are you thinking? Any questions?
Loving it, relating to it, as you know, since the first time we talked. And we had a couple questions about the types of Phoenix levels. So we had that from a couple emails. So did you want to expand a little more on that while we have a few minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. So Phoenix levels as in the phases or as in the personality types?
The different, I think it was personality types where you're mentioning silver or gold, diamond or whatever.
Yeah. So copper phoenixes, when you are a copper phoenix, you are very deeply connected to the earth. You are salt of the earth. You love animals more than you love humans. You love humans. You don't always like, you love humanity. You don't always like humans. That's what I always say. But you absolutely love the creature teachers of the earth. And as coppers, you're steadfast. You're loyal. You believe in your purpose. You believe in your duty to humanity. And you look for the simplest approach. You look for the most direct way to get to something. But every once in a while you can get caught up because you're also wanting to honor everyone and everything that is around you. And so wanting to honor everyone tends to lean into a little bit of people pleasing. And so when we get into people pleasing, suddenly we get off the simple direct path and we get onto the convoluted path. So, from a transformation perspective with the coppers, it's always a good idea to lean into and focus on keeping things simple. So I think that's really interesting that came through earlier in the message. We have the Iron Phoenixes. Iron Phoenixes, you guys are so freaking creative. Everything is about creativity. The way you think is creative. The work that you do is creative. The processes that you approach your work are very creative. You get bored easily. You don't want to do anything linearly. You don't want to do anything by rote. You want to be able to have the expansiveness to beat to the tune of your own drum. And for you guys, sometimes the transformative process can get sticky when you are in something that you can't control. One of the things about your creative flow and energy is that when you're in that space, you feel very much in tune and connected with Source. And it's that in-tunement and that connection with Source that gives you that sense of, I'm in control of everything. And when we're not slightly tuned in, when we've missed a step or we're a little bit misaligned, for you guys, the Iron Phoenixes, you can get lost. You get, what's the word I'm looking for? Like disheartened. That creativity gets shut down right away, and you can be ornery about it. You can get angry. You can get into all the feels that stops the flow. So it's always important for you irons to pay attention to your alignment with Source, because that's your creative flow. Gold phoenixes, oh my God, these are the heart-based ones. These are the come into my bosom, let me give you love and hugs and, mi casa y su casa, and anything you need, I am here. And you love so deeply. You wear your hearts on your sleeves. You feel such a deep connection to the people, places, and things that you engage with. The challenge for you guys through transformation is in learning how to protect yourself when you're going through all of the shifts and changes. You guys don't do well when you don't know what's coming up. You don't do well when you can't see exactly what you're working towards. You kind of want to know. You want to feel that everything's going to be okay. So for you guys, it's really making that connection of here is my alignment to source. I put my trust in source energy, and I do what brings me comfort. I do what I know source honors within my life, and I hang on to that. Because if I go a little bit off the beaten path, the anxiety is unbelievable, and then I feel like I have to shut down my heart in order to protect myself. And when I shut down my heart, I can't function. So it's a battle between or a balance, not a battle. It's a balance between open heart and closed heart. It's sort of finding that protection. I feel like it's protection, finding the right balance of protection for you. Silver phoenixes, you guys are so clear, so direct, so very much on mission, on purpose. Don't waste my time. Don't beat around the bush. Let's get right to the heart of it. And sometimes for you guys, when you're going through a really transformative time, it's frustrating because you don't know exactly where you're going, or there isn't a clear path. And you can be clear, but the universe is not lining up for you. And for you, it's about divine order and timing. You want to be in charge of your own timing. You want to be able to, you're very well resourced, and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can make this happen. I got what is required. I got what it takes. Let me just do it. And divine order and timing, and the universe often says, nope, this isn't the right path right now. And so you can tend to bulldoze through that, and then you create problems that you then have to clean up the messes, kind of thing. It's cleaning up the messes of that. So for you guys as silvers, the challenge with transformation for you is, I want to say, really being in what we talked about today, being in acceptance of it's going to happen in divine order and timing. So let me do what is required to set myself up for success, so that when I get that sign, when the universe tells me I'm good to go, I can jump into that, and I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to say yes. Where are we? Platinum phoenixes. Platinum phoenixes, you are the visionaries. You are the ones that see things well in advance of what other people see. You can conceptualize things in ways that the average person can't even see. Like they're just so, out of line with a lot of that. And so the challenge for you guys is in, how do I convey my visions? How do I make my visions tangible? How do I enlist others in helping me to bring my visions to life? And when you're going through a transformation, the frustrations that you often run into are with people, because you tend to be lone wolves, not because you want to be, but because that's kind of how life has presented itself to you, that not a lot of people understand you or can see what you see. And so you've learned to be very self-reliant and self-sufficient. And when you're going through a transformational time, the natural go-to is to say, you know what, I can do it myself. I'll figure it out myself. But a lot of what you guys get. Mm-hmm.
Sorry for jumping in. We're actually 1 minute past the top. I didn't realize the time was flying by. We've got another live show right behind you, so we're gonna have to summarize super fast. Do a very brief. Okay. Well, yeah. we can address the rest in the next show. And thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Really excited to see you. I will just shameless plug
that I have my year in preview. It's a reading. It's your year in preview reading that comes up at the end of every year. It's a preview into 2025. It is literally my most popular service. I have people reaching out to me already for it. It's going to be going live on December 1st. If you want a sneak peek of what's coming up for you in 2025, get on my newsletter. Go to my website and get on my newsletter because you'll be able to book this as of November 15th. Thanks so much, guys. We will see you next week. Thank you, Nicole.